Hey there, Natureversity students. It's Chris here, doing another video for you. Today it is story time with Mr. Chris. This is not one of my stories. This is a story that just came out in an article from The Guardian a few days ago. And it is the story about 6 boys, all teenagers, between the ages of 13 to 16, who decided one day that they did not enjoy school and they thought they were being mistreated there and they wanted to go on a little adventure. So, in June of 1966, 6 boys named Sion, Stephen, Kolo, David, Luke, and Mano all ventured out from a place called St. Andrew's Catholic School in the capital city of Nuku'alofa, and that is in Tonga. So here is a picture of where Tonga is at. Okay. And here is how far away that is from the United States. You can see that it's way west there, okay? And they decided to go on an adventure. And they were headed to Fiji or New Zealand, one of the two. They didn't know, they didn't have a map, they didn't have a compass, they didn't really have a plan. They didn't even tell anybody at all where they were going and what they were planning on doing. However, they did decide to bring a bunch of bananas and coconuts and a little bit of water. And yeah, they decided to borrow a boat from somebody, a 24-foot wooden boat with a sail, good-sized rudder on it and everything, and they set sail. They took off. They were doing fine. Everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, that first night, they dropped anchor, they relaxed, they fell asleep, and they woke up to a storm. A storm that was so powerful, it had broken their anchor, disconnected them, and set them adrift. It not only did that, it started to break parts of the boat in a way that water began to fill up the boat. In addition, it broke the sail and it also broke the rudder. So, for 8 days, these 6 boys were drifting across the sea with no direction, no sail, no way of moving, no way of communicating, no water, no food, right? Because they had eaten it all. And that was it. They were drifting. They just drifted. So how did they do it? What did they do? Well, for those 8 days, they took the coconut shells and they collected what little rainwater they did have. They were really fortunate that a little bit of rain had come and gone. They attempted to catch a few fish with no luck. But again, how would they have cooked it if they did catch those fish, right? Maybe you can eat some of those fish raw in that part of the world. I'm not familiar with that yet. However, they continued to drift until on day 9, they spotted an island, right? And they didn't know where they were, what island this was, right? They just jumped out of the boat and started paddling towards it using chunks of the wreckage from the boat, kind of like holding on to it, kind of like driftwood, and just paddling towards it. So, again, for 8 long days, they drifted, and on the 9th day, they spotted an island. And this island is known as Atta. And here is an image of where Atta is in relation to Tonga, so you can kind of see how they drifted. So once they made it ashore, they began digging into the side of a cliff and kind of making a little cave for themselves to stay in. And for about a month, they rested until one day they were venturing along and they discovered an old kind of uninhabited area where people used to live, and it was kind of in like a volcanic crater there on the island. And they noticed that there were feral chickens and taro root and bananas and all kinds of other things kind of near that area. So that's where they decided to set up their camp. And so for the next 15 months, that's 1 year and 3 months. For the next year and 3 months, they lived there in that volcanic crater, hunting these little chickens and eating taro root. Taro root is kind of like a cassava type root, also like yucca, very much like a potato, a starchy kind of vegetable root, as well as using hollowed out logs to capture the rainwater that fell there on the island for drinking water. And all in all, they did pretty well for being 6 teenage boys who really didn't have a clue what they were doing, right? They managed pretty well. And what they did, they decided to divide all of the tasks and all of the labor up into different chores such as guards, which were kind of like lookouts for ships and planes and things like that. Kitchen duty, obviously, preparing meals and keeping the fire going and things like that. And then the other thing would be gardening that they did. They had a little garden that they had created there. One of the boys on one of the endeavors, Stephen, he fell off of a cliff and broke his leg. So the other 5 boys, while Stephen was healing, were taking over his duties and chores as well. So again, this is just remarkable. Not only were they able to kind of make up for this loss of a person and in far as workload, but they were also able to keep him healed, nourished, hydrated, and attend to that broken leg in addition. So that's absolutely insane. I mean, not insane, but it's remarkable. It's amazing. What an amazing story that these boys were capable of doing all of this. So again, now Stephen, the one who broke his leg, he's actually grown up now, and he became an engineer. He was the one who used 2 sticks to rub together, like you all know. We do bow drill and hand drill and plow and all those other types of friction fire methods. He was the one to do that for his group. So that's absolutely remarkable that he was able to do that. So they basically kept this fire going for over a year. And in the evenings, they would all sit around the fire and they would sing songs. One of them, Kolo, had made an instrument. He made a guitar-type instrument, which had wired strings and coconuts as well as parts of driftwood. They would attempt to signal the entire time, right? But every time they were signaling, the boats would just, kind of pass by. And what they thought was maybe the people who were passing by on the boats looked at anybody who was signaling there that we need help. Maybe they thought that those were what are known as marooned people. So marooned people would be people who were placed onto an island that had done bad things. So if they had done bad things, why would you go over there and get near them? They might do more bad things to you. So they were thinking maybe the signaling of this smoke and the fires are letting the other boats around in the area know, don't go there, because you know what I mean, there might be some dangerous people who are marooned on that island. So one time they attempted to make a raft to set sail away from Atta and get back, hopefully. And they thought actually that they were on Samoa, so they started sailing south on this raft they made. Well, what happened was the raft broke and started coming apart about a mile offshore. So they ended up going back to the island. Well, thankfully, because they thought they were in Samoa and they were sailing south, they would have just gone right into open sea, and that definitely would have killed them if they hadn't been found by somebody out there, right? Because next local island from there is thousands of miles away. So the raft broke and they made it back to shore. So at this point, on September the 11th, 1966, a gentleman by the name of Peter Warner, who was captaining a boat known as Just David. They had gone, the boat did, into Tongan waters to get fishing licenses, to kind of request to fish those waters. The Tongan people said no. So as they were passing back through, they kind of sailed by Atta. Now, what caught Mr. Warner's eye was the interesting burn marks on the side of the island. So as he got closer and closer and closer, he looked through his binoculars and he saw what he knew was a boy to be flailing his arms up in the air, screaming and jumping in the water. And soon the other 5 boys had come down the hill. Stephen, once again, Stephen jumped into the water, swam to the boat to say, "We are the 6. We've been gone for what we think is 15 months. And believe it or not, true story, they told them how long exactly they thought they were gone. They were off by 2 days. That's pretty remarkable for for somebody who didn't have any type of calendar type tools with them to know exactly how many days you were gone. So Mr. Warner then brought them back. They were brought to a hospital to be kind of checked out, make sure everything was okay. They were all in perfect health. In fact, Stephen's broken leg, the doctor said, "Wow, what a remarkable heal. This healed just like, we would expect it to heal if you had been receiving kind of like modern day treatments, modern day medicine," right? So, again, these boys doing this is absolutely, it's just amazing and so remarkable that they were able to take care of themselves as well as somebody with a broken leg during this endeavor. So once they were out of the hospital, the funniest thing happened. The police came and arrested them, all of them, all 6, because of the stolen boat. The gentleman whose boat they had stolen had pressed charges. Funny enough, right? They didn't just go through a total survival situation for 15 months. Now they got to come back to be faced with jail time. Fortunately for us and in this story, and for them mostly, the captain once again came to their rescue. And what he did was he set the bail, and along with Channel News Local 7, they, with the boys, sailed back to the island and did a documentary all about the 15-month journey that these boys had gone on and how they survived. And in 1966, the October of that year, the documentary aired. So literally a month later, they went, sailed, made this documentary, came back, aired the documentary. The documentary has only been aired once. There's only one copy of it in existence, so there's probably a really rare chance anybody watching this video has seen it. But good news is Colo and another gentleman by the name of Alvaro, I can't say that last name, Alvaro, and Colo actually went back to the island for 10 days, and they did a survival retreat to mimic and recreate the 15-month-long journey. So Colo basically took Mr. Alvaro around and showed him, this is where we lived, this is the water, this is how we did everything, which is really cool. And that documentary, as well as the book, is going to be coming out this summer, hopefully. This is all just stuff that I've read on the internet, and I'm giving to you from mainly a lot of news articles. But we look forward to that, and I hope that y'all really enjoyed this story. To me, it's kind of a real-life tale of Lord of the Flies, but minus all the bloodshed and minus the chaos, obviously. This is an amazing story of unity. This is an amazing story of cooperation and adaptability and awareness and accountability, right? Attitude. They made a pact, these boys did, to not fight, and they honored that pact. If they did happen to fight, what ended up taking place was they separated for just a few hours, and then they just resumed their everyday duties with one another, and they just let it be. They let it go. They did not quarrel. So that's amazing. So you brothers, you sisters out there who fight with your little brothers and sisters, think about that, right? Think about all that you can get done if you just didn't fight, right? So I hope y'all enjoyed this story. I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening. It's getting darker and darker out here. I'm enjoying more and more of this rain, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next video. And y'all stay safe out there. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.